home on your cable station, Channel 35. We can be viewed live via webcast from the city's homepage, or we can be heard over council phone. We have yet to achieve a quorum. We have 6 members at the present time, and we need 10 for a quorum and to conduct any business. But this being Friday, as is customary, we have a number of presentations and special recognitions of individuals and groups within the city of Los Angeles. To conduct our first presentation, the chair recognizes Mr. Reyes.
Good morning, buenos dias, Council President, members. Before I start, I want to welcome to our chambers a great representative for the Council District 13, now Assembly Member, former Council Member Jackie Goldberg. Thank you for being here, Council. Members of the Council, I have a brief presentation to make to a visiting dignitary, the Honorable Edgar Yabes. Mr. Yabes is a municipal mayor of the municipality of Sinai, province of Ilocos Sur, Philippines. And I gotta say, it's we planned it this way, but it's a coincidence that we also are acknowledging Filipinotown, so good timing, Councilman Garcetti. Mr. Edgar I. Yabes was sent by Ilocos Sur provincial government to study various city government issues in Los Angeles that could be adopted and implemented by Philippine cities. These issues include effective city governance and management techniques, cost-effective techniques for the efficient delivery of city services, tourism promotion strategies, planning tools and strategies for promoting sustainable economic development. On behalf of the City of Los Angeles, we welcome you, Mr. Yabes. Please, I'd like to say a few words.
Good morning to this honorable august body, the City Council of Los Angeles. On behalf of the 24,000 people of the municipality of Sinai in the province of Ilocos Sur and from the Republic of the Philippines, I would like to say thank you. Maraming salamat po, Diyos tiagina, to all of you for this wonderful and once-in-a-lifetime event that came to my life, for having me in this august hall of body, the City Council of Los Angeles. Once again, maraming salamat po, Diyos tiagina, and mabuhay to all of you.
I might add as a side note, one of his brothers, Mr. Yabes, is a former planning deputy who is now working with the city of Tempe. And good luck to you, Robert.
Now Assembly Member Jackie Goldberg, and let me recognize Councilmember Eric Garcetti for the next presentation.
And if Council Members Pacheco and Reyes will join me. Somebody wants to come? I'll wait for Councilmember Reyes and Pacheco. Colleagues, members of the public, it is a joy and an honor today. I don't know if we can get the camera to pan down a little bit here, or maybe you guys can hold the sign up. To celebrate the establishment in the city of Los Angeles of historic Filipinotown. There you see it. We'll hold it up again later. I should have started with Mabuhay. This celebration today marks so many years of Filipino history in the United States of America and in this land. While we are a collection of many, many people here today who have played a small part in this creation, we must hearken even further back today to look at what we are celebrating. In 1587, a full 50 years before Jamestown was settled, there were Filipinos here in the New World. Many of them were forced to work on Spanish galleons. In California, they first landed in Morro Bay, Luzon Indians, they were referred to. In 1763, here then in the colonies, the first folks that came from the Philippines settled in Louisiana. Manila men, they were referred to at the time. In the bayous and the marshes of Louisiana, they established a presence, a permanent presence here from the earliest days of this land's history. And here in the city of Los Angeles, one of the original pobladores, Antonio Miranda Rodriguez, was one of the 44 individuals in 1781 who came to our city and who established this city, El Pueblo de Nuestra Reina de Los Angeles. We have had many waves of immigration of Filipinos to Los Angeles, to California, and to the United States. And in the new census, Filipino Americans are the largest Asian American ethnic group in the United States of America. The first wave started really after 1812, a second wave from 1906 to 1934, shared a common past with many of our Latino brothers and sisters who also experienced Spanish colonialism. In 1926, and throughout the Great Depression, the Filipino-American community faced great hardships. They were added to the anti-miscegenation laws. They were told that they couldn't live in many parts of our city. There were signs that said, no dogs and no Filipinos allowed. And yet the proud history of the Filipino people here, first settling downtown near Bunker Hill and moving on from Little Tokyo and into what has now been referred to as Temple Beaudry or Temple Beverly. It is that area today really where the wave that came after World War II of immigration settled in what we are calling historic Filipinotown. So many great Filipinos served in the United States Armed Services. As I've shared with this body before, my own grandfather fought in the Philippines in World War II alongside many of them. And my own grandfather, who was Mexican at the time, received his citizenship. And for the many veterans who have not received the benefits they were promised by the city, we finally have some light at the end of the tunnel this year with the House passing a benefits bill for health care for Filipino-American veterans, Filipino veterans. 50 years late. A third wave from 1945 to 1965 of immigration, and then after the Immigration Act of 1965, really up to 20,000 Filipinos a year enter the United States in the fourth wave after 1965. As I mentioned, they are now the biggest Asian American group in the United States, but when you go to different cities and you see how many Chinatowns there are and little Tokyos, there's a dearth of recognition of this cultural heritage. It would have been easy for us to put these signs up the first day that I was in office. We can direct the city to do so, but we wanted these signs to represent something. And so George Villanueva from my staff, Chito Tenza, and members of the community, both Filipino and non-Filipino, spent 1 year doing focus groups with business groups, with senior citizens, with young people, with residents, with non-Filipinos and Filipinos, to talk about what area and what sort of projects and what future historic Filipinotown could have. So today it is the corridor of Temple Beverly, in Council District 13 and Council District 1 previously as well, that this remains still a port of entry for the Filipino American community and for so many immigrants. And it possesses that vibrant energy that all of us celebrate and recognize today. In addition, though, today, let us remember the past efforts of people like John Ferraro, our great council president, who had a sign Filipinotown many years ago, but unfortunately we were never able to recognize the promise of actually putting it up. Of people like Connie Guerrero and thousands of others who did the research and the time to look into the history of Filipinos in Los Angeles. And then this new group that has come together who we seek to recognize today. Before I turn over the microphone to Assemblymember Goldberg and to my two other colleagues, I want to say just something from my heart, that this represents so many more people than we see here today. As overwhelming as your presence is and your participation has been, the contributions of Filipinos in America, from Agapito Flores, who invented the fluorescent light bulb here in the United States in the 1940s, Eduardo San Juan, who helped design the dune buggies that was on the moon, and I could go on and on and on. The contributions of Filipinos in America are grand, wide, and great. And that is what we celebrate today, that they have a historic home, a heart for their community, a place where all Filipinos are welcome and will continue to prosper and flourish. So I'd like to ask Jackie Goldberg to step forward. Mabuhay ang Nagay Filipino, mabuhay ang Naga Filipinotown. Jackie Goldberg.
Thank you. I'm thrilled that I could be here to join in this celebration and to just add my congratulations to all of you who've made this possible. And now that you've passed a resolution doing this here, that will allow me to take it to the state to have Caltrans mark an exit on the freeway north and southbound on the 101 to let people know where they can get off to see Filipinotown. I'd like to say it will happen quickly, but we don't even have a budget yet, so what can I tell you? But it will happen, And I also, too, want to just say that it is a community that may have stars that have done these particular things, but on a day-to-day basis, it's a community that values education. It's a community that values family, that values music and art and literature, that has libraries, that has teachers. You can go into every Filipino family that I've ever met. There's at least one that's a school teacher or a school employee. It values those things that are important to this city. And because it does that, because there are these basic values in this community, it's an important part of the fabric of Los Angeles, and I'm very happy to be here to congratulate everybody on this wonderful day.
Thank you, Becky. I'd like to ask Councilmember Reyes to join us up here next. I also want to recognize the Acting Consul General from the nation of the Philippines, Ruth Prado, who is here, and also the Mayor of Walnut Hill, Tony Cartagena, who is here as well. Thank you for joining us.
I want to congratulate Councilmember Garcetti for his leadership in making sure this happens to our Filipino community, Councilmember Nick Pacheco for all his support. In many ways, the healthiest thing we can do is conduct ourselves in a manner where we can act as if we don't have political boundaries. The Filipino community abounds and stretches out throughout many neighborhoods. I've had the pleasure of working with some great people, Gerald Gubatan from my office when we used to work together back in the planning department in the previous council office. Today I have Ruby De Vera from my office, works in the Northeast Democratic Club. And so we have leaders. I know we have a strong presence in our city family in various departments. So it is only appropriate, and it's about time that we acknowledge the richness of our history of our city and through the richness of the Filipino community. Thank you very much for everything you've done.
Councilmember Reyes, Councilmember Pacheco.
Mr. President, colleagues, I just wanted to commend Councilmember Garcetti for completing a lot of the work that was started by Ferraro, Goldberg, and by all the Latino, and all the Filipino community leaders who have been working on this for so long. I want to thank you for sticking to it and commend you for your persistence. And we all know that the Filipino community is throughout Los Angeles. We have a great representation in the Eagle Rock, Highland Park area with Philippine Village right there on Eagle Rock Boulevard. And so for my constituents and for all of us who are representatives in the city of Los Angeles, I just want to congratulate you all for making this happen to us here in Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pacheco. Mr. Garcetti. I want to recognize Mr. Holden for a few words.
Mr. President, members, I too want to congratulate Ms. Garcetti and Ms. Goldberg, Ms. Pacheco, and the entire Filipino community. This historic identification is really long overdue. I remember many years ago when I was a member of the California State Senate, you all remember, where the Filipino community was not receiving their proportionate share of benefits as it relates to that which was going to minority communities based on their surname. And they asked the legislature at that time, which I supported, carried the legislation for them, to identify as a separate category the Filipino community as a minority in the state of California. And that was done. The other thing, Mr. President, that they are asked for and that they needed, now we all are benefiting as a state and as a nation, they asked that we make some adjustments in our examination for nurses, because in the Philippines, they train there a large number of nurses, and in every single hospital, not only in California today, but throughout our country, you have a nurse, the chances are 50% of the chance she will be from the Philippines and a Filipino nurse giving the kind of service that you need. And lastly, Mr. President, members, that it's been my privilege as a state senator to represent part of the community, as a city council person when I was first elected to represent part of the community. And I just want you to know that your contribution to this city and to this state cannot be measured in terms of financial and whatever the case may be, but your kindness and your overwhelming of support. I might add one other comment, and that is the doctors. When the Filipino doctors were trained in the Philippines, as the nurses are, they could not be admitted to our health care facilities. They could not be trained as interns. They were not permitted, but they were arbitrarily denied. And I want to let you to know that it was Kenny Hahn, Janet's father, who said, "Nate, do it." And so the first hospital, Dr. Some of the doctors out there, and right, and then we also had the Dr. Gatos was one of the first ones to go through the program. And since that time, there's been many Filipino doctors been trained at Martin Luther King Hospital, the only hospital that would receive them at that time to become medical doctors. And that was due to a guy that you all know. His name is Kenny Hahn, and we all made it happen. And I want to congratulate you for doing a job well done.
Mr. Labange, followed by Ms. Galanter.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council. Magandang umaga. It's great to see this accomplishment, Councilman Garcetti, Councilman Reyes, Councilman Pacheco, and I got a little Filipinotown in redistricting, so I want to congratulate you for your effort. But the wait is worth it. Hold the sign up again. One more time, please. This is the longest sign of any neighborhood in the city of Los Angeles. So he who waits gets the longest sign. But also, I want to salute a great American, a great city employee, a great Filipino-American. Please welcome right here. Clap for this man. He is the senior map maker for all the city of Los Angeles, Jerry Del Rosia. Give Jerry a big hand. I got to correct my Tagalog. Jerry Del Rosario, the greatest map maker in the history of the city of Los Angeles. He did all the redistricting maps. Thank you, Jerry. Great to have you here.
Ms. Galanter.
I don't have a long history in this, but I want to congratulate two more people. We should not neglect Ms. Goldberg's role in this when she was on the city council, because Mr. Garcetti was lucky enough to inherit an effort that was already underway. And I think it's worth taking note of Ms. Goldberg's contributions toward this effort and her responsiveness. I also wanted to mention one more of our Filipino Los Angeles city family, because I'm not sure that all of you here know that our city facilities recycling program, the one that produces these the yellow containers where you're supposed to put the cans and bottles, actually was made real through the efforts of Susana Reyes, who is now working over at the Department of Water and Power. But if it weren't for her, we wouldn't have the kind of program that we have here today. And so that's another one that's recent history, but it's another one that you should be very proud of, as we are. Congratulations to all of you.
Mr. President, we have, I would like to present certificates of recognition to the folks that made this possible. I'm going to go through their names quickly if you'll hold your applause, and please give them applause at the end. Joel Jacinto, Teresa Valiente, Susan Makingdang, Loretta Trinidad, Amanda Bueno, Enrico Busan, Eric Cunillo, Fender Santos, from our own city family as well, Ye Coronel, Michelle Magalong, and from the organizations, we'd like to present certificates of thanks to the Search to Involve Filipino Americans, the Filipino American Service Group Incorporated, the Filipino Workers Center, Filipinotown Incorporated with Jay Valencia as the mayor, Filipino American National Historical Society, Los Angeles chapter, and also to my staff members, again, George Villanueva and Achito Tenza. At this point, I'd like to turn over the microphone to somebody who actually is Filipino after all of us have been speaking. Joe Abella is going to say a few words on the significance of this. Please welcome him.
Mr. President, member of the City Council, and especially to Eric Garcetti, I thank you and the Filipino community in the entire city of Los Angeles, the state of California, and all over the world, thank you. This is a long time coming. 40 years have passed since we first tried to make one strip of Los Angeles as Filipinotown. We've gone through different steps. The first step was that when it was first organized, the 110 freeway stopped the movement of the Filipino to declare this area as Filipinotown. Filipinos were cut in half because they were part of the freeway development. Again, John Ferraro, who was then city councilman of the city of Los Angeles, moved forward with the assistance of several Filipino leaders in the community. Miding Giaga and several others, Roy Morales from SIPA, they were very instrumental in trying to get the Filipinotown organized. But finally, it took a young councilman, a real young councilman, to get the dream of the Filipinos come true. And we all thank Eric Garcetti for this. I lived here in the city of Los Angeles for the last 40 years and worked with a lot of city council individuals. Of course, one of them is Nate Holden. Well, I won't tell how old he is. But people in the community have tried so hard to work with the city to get this dream come true. Once again, I think Eric knows more about the Philippine history than I do, so I'm not going to dwell into that. He is truly, at heart, a Filipino. But before I leave this podium, I'd like to make 3 wishes. And I've always been a dreamer in my life. My first dream was to have the Filipinos identified as Filipinos in the United States. And we were successful in doing that. It went into the U.S. Census, thanks to Nate Holden again, who was one of the guys that voted for it. In the state of California. And then the other thing that we were working on is that to get funds for the Filipino community. We were also successful in that, in getting some funds for SIPA. At one time, it was a $2 organization. Now it's a multi-million-dollar organization working with kids and also young adults and also people that are new here in this country. So I'm glad I've seen that. And I hope I see some more of new developments to come up. I think I have a few more years in my life. But one thing that I would like to ask the Filipino leaders that are here today. Unity is strength. And in strength, there's unity. I would like to ask the Filipino to unify. And one of these days, I'd like to see a Filipino American sit one of those chairs and be a part of the city of Los Angeles. The other thing that I would like to dream about, and I think the City Council can do something about it, and this is a dream. We have a street called Temple Street in Los Angeles. One of these days, I'd like to see that name checked to Eric Garcetti's Street. Thank you very much.
And I'd like to also ask Jocelyn Gallego-Rosenthal to speak as well for a moment, with your indulgence. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. President, honorable members of the City Council, I was asked to say a few words undoubtedly because I represent my late mother, Remedios Giaga, who would probably be here herself and probably is anyway. She often introduced herself in most gatherings as quote-unquote concerned citizen, I often chided her silently from the sidelines, saying to myself, "Oh, Mom, that's so quaint." As I look back, that spirit of concern permeated her work and infected many of us who had the fortune to work with her and around her. She had the dream of a Filipino town, and she dedicated many years to caring for the community that we recognize today. On her behalf, and on behalf of many of us who shared that dream, I want to express my deep appreciation to Councilman Eric Garcetti and his staff, who responded to a deep yearning that has gone undetected for most part for many years, because in truth, the many fellow Filipinos who toil in the trenches for the betterment of our community do so quietly, without any pomp and circumstances, but only because they are truly concerned citizens. It is a grand day for us indeed, more grand than many can appreciate or comprehend. It tells me that the leaders of our great city recognize the stamp that Filipino Americans have made in the evolution of our beloved Los Angeles. 2 years ago, I had a chance meeting with a young Filipino woman, resident of Australia, who was here for a 2-month stay in Hollywood with her Australian writer-actor boyfriend. This young, hip lady from a faraway land, right away upon learning that I was Filipino-American, pressed me for directions to, quote, Temple Street, you know, where the Filipinotown is? I was dumbfounded. But upon further reflection, it shouldn't be surprising that the writings of Carlos Bulusan about his days in Los Angeles, the writings of Uncle Roy Morales about P-Town, and more recently, the writings of our beloved Valerie Bejarano about her youthful days as a Temple Street brat have made it half across the globe. I close with an invitation to my fellow concerned citizens to join hands with the rich diversity of peoples that makes up this great experiment called Los Angeles in the year 2002 and help our leaders here truly make it a great Los Angeles enterprise. Mabuhay.
Colleagues, I know that this presentation has been almost as long as this sign is, and I promise I won't make some presentations for a few weeks to come, but I do think we should hear from the State of the Philippines. Please welcome Consul General Prado.
On behalf of the Government of the Republic of the Philippines, the officers and staff of the Philippine Consulate General in Los Angeles, I would like to express my deepest appreciation to Mayor James Han, LA City Council President Alex Padilla, the distinguished members of the Los Angeles City Council, particularly Councilman Eric Garcetti, a true friend of the Filipino community in Los Angeles, for this resolution declaring the Beverly Temple Street corridor as the historic Filipino town. This is a great recognition of the unified and vibrant existence of the Filipino community in Los Angeles. I would like also to commend the hard work of the distinguished Filipino community leaders, the officers and members of the different Filipino-American organizations for making this dream a reality. Thank you for collaborating with the members of this august body and Mr. Garcetti in making sure that in the year 2002, a historic Filipino town in the city of Los Angeles will be designated. The Philippine Consulate General in Los Angeles pledges to work closely with the officials of this beautiful city, particularly in the field of trade and industry between the Philippines and Los Angeles. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay!
If anybody would like to join us in the rotunda, we also have the unprecedented event of having about 90% of Filipino food restaurants and distributors providing great food in there for the first time. This was made possible by the efforts of Cecilia De Castro. We'd like to extend our thanks to her. Mabuhay ang mga Filipino, and we look forward to you celebrating with us in Filipinotown. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. let's give the community just a minute or two to take a few pictures and proceed out to the rotunda for the reception. Following the pictures and the procession, our next presentation will be conducted by Councilmember Perry.
Eric, our city. Spell it all quickly right now.